Thank you, Samana. We have with us Professor Aaron Lotus, who is an associate professor at the engineering practice at Purdue University, Indiana. He has worked with FDA for 13 years in this particular process. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell us, what does this approval mean?
Right, so it's really a different bar from what the emergency use authorization was. So for emergency use, FDA is looking at uh, do they think that it's likely this vaccine would be effective? And they're looking at, what are the known and the potential benefits and what are the known and the potential risks? And do those benefits outweigh the risks of what we know at that time? So that's the bar for emergency use. For the full approval, now FDA has received additional data. They've got more extensive clinical data. They have much longer follow-up from the clinical data. And along with that, it's not just the clinical information, but what about manufacturing, the manufacturing process of the vaccine, the quality testing, things like shelf life. So there's just a lot more information that goes into that review. So FDA has taken all of that, undergone that full review process. And at this point, FDA can now come out and say they agree this vaccine is safe, it is effective for preventing COVID-19. And that's more than what they could say before.
Well, I don't know what difference it actually makes because, when I went to take vaccine, it was common knowledge. It is safe, it is important, it's critical, it's patriotic duty. Go get it. So many millions of people got it. Now, once I arrived there, after they gave me the vaccine, a whole lot of writing would says it is only provisional and this and that, lot of ifs and buts. So what practical difference this approval means?
Yeah, that's a great question because the same as you, I hear from over the past weeks and months, I think we hear from a lot of people, this vaccine is very safe, it's very effective, but you never heard that from FDA because that's not what FDA was reviewing. And FDA couldn't say that, and the manufacturer, Pfizer, couldn't say that. So it's an interpretation. And, at this point, that's not to say FDA didn't think it was safe or effective, but that's not that bar they were looking at. It was a lower bar. So now I think we can be even more confident that based on all the information that FDA's review that's been available, and additionally, I think what took a little more time is there had to be more time to get longer term follow-up. So now these vaccines have been out. Most of these patients have been followed for at least 6 months. So there's a lot more, I think we'd have more confidence, more assurance in these vaccines going ahead. And, I think that may be, and we may get into this discussion more, but that may be what caused some people to be a little hesitant on being vaccinated until now.
What is the politics of it? President Trump was pushing for it. He got a big operation going to fund it, Operation Warp Speed, and things of this nature. So government is pushing for it, and the people are worried about the pandemic. So do you think it is not just the scientific and academic process of approval, but a public pleasure and the demand and the need also plays a role in this thing?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's maybe unfortunately the politics have entered into that, have started to sway people's opinion on trusting in the data, trusting in the government, trusting in what people are saying. So I think from there, what we have to do is take a step back, look at the data and look at the science that's out there. And if we don't trust what the government's saying, most of the data is available to everybody. We can look at the same papers, we can look at the same numbers, and we can see where this is coming from. It's not, it's not secret information, it's all out there. And I think that can help us, make that decision if we do have maybe a level of discomfort with what we're hearing, and try to avoid getting mired in the politics, but instead look at the science and the data and the safety behind it.
Why it is not approved for this people under 16 years? Because they are already getting the shots. So while it is this particular thing is still not approved for them. Emergency approval, but not the full approval.
Correct. So it still just has the emergency approval for 12 to 15. So the full approval is 16 and up. And the real reason for that is that the initial clinical study only enrolled patients that were 16 years of age and older. So the clinical study in younger children, those 12 to 15, didn't start till a little bit later. So there's simply a lag time between those studies. So in order to get the additional follow-up for those patients, it's going to take a little longer. But there are plans that I've seen in some of the reports that now that it's approved, there will be a supplement to add full approval for those younger kids. So I expect we'll see that coming probably in the near term, assuming that the safety and effectiveness data continue to hold.
So what's the future about the children who are under 12?
And again, those started even later than the ones for 12 and over. So there's no emergency use authorization for those yet. I think it's just a matter of time until enough data are collected. And then certainly those need to be reviewed by FDA to ensure there's no safety concerns in younger children. I mean, there was some concern that we've seen, and there's a warning on the labeling for the approved vaccine for myocarditis and pericarditis.
What are those warnings about?
Right. So those, as you may have heard in the news, that's can be an inflammation of tissue around the heart, which it could be serious. In nearly all cases, it was not serious, but there are some where it was, and these patients need additional treatment. So what the warning for the approved vaccine is that you should be aware of this, and it specifically calls out that the risk is highest in males and those under the age of 40, and in particular for those between the ages of 12, so 12 to 17-year-old males. So the benefit, as FDA has reviewed, the benefit is still greater than the risk, but it's something that people need to be aware of. And FDA is actively working with Pfizer to continue the studies and to collect more data to evaluate are there any long-term concerns with that.
So the warning serves what purpose? I mean, the whole world and the media, everyone is asking people to go get the vaccine. But if there's a warning on that thing, which I even don't get to touch somewhere in that box, that warning is what? To legally protect the company so nobody files a lawsuit?
So I see the purpose of that warning as really raising awareness so that if you would give the vaccine, you should be aware of this is a potential risk. So if you would have any problems that might suggest, this is happening to you or to your children, then to consult your doctor and work with them for treatment. So it's really increasing that awareness. So when people do get that vaccine, they're looking out for particular risks that may be more common. Certainly, pain at the injection site, tiredness, fainting. Those are what you might expect. But this one's a little different. So I think it's helping people be aware that this is a risk. So if you do get vaccinated, make sure you're paying attention. And if you start to have a problem, you need to do something about it. And it's also, certainly getting vaccinated is, I've been vaccinated, I'd recommend it, but it's a personal choice. You need to weigh what are the benefits, what are the risks. And it's not just the benefit of hopefully avoiding getting infected with COVID, but and the risk, there could be a risk of, well, if your kids are in school and they've been vaccinated, maybe they don't get quarantined, maybe they don't miss school that way. So there's all different risks and benefits for everyone to consider.
So what is the percentage of people who have taken the Pfizer vaccine who face those pericarditis or whatever is the name of that?
I'd have to look it up. It's a very low number. I don't quote me on that. I want to say it's somewhere in the 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000. And again, most of those are very mild. It's something you might take, take some ibuprofen to treat. There's a very small number of cases. So it's very rare where you may need further treatment than that.
So now go ahead.
No, I'd say so. Again, it's a very low risk, but I think it should help people. FDA is not trying to say there's no risk with this. This is what the data shows us, and they're very open in sharing that information.
Okay. Now it is already announced that in September, people can get the booster shot. Has the booster shot been studied that if somebody has, those people who are under 40, who has a small risk of the heart condition, male under 40, if they get the booster shot, don't you think that risk will be even increased further?
So right now, the booster shot is only available under emergency use, and that's only available for certain immunocompromised individuals. So it's still not widely available to the population. And I expect, again, that that's something that needs more data. I think it's being studied. And I have no doubt that that's probably one of the key factors that FDA is reviewing to ensure that this booster shot is safe for these patients to receive before we get first emergency authorization, and then certainly before we get full approval.
What about the Moderna? Are they in the process of moving forward with full approval?
So the Moderna application is also under review by FDA currently. It's a little bit behind. I don't think it's too far behind Pfizer. The Pfizer-BioNTech was submitted just a little bit earlier, so I think I would expect that's probably why we haven't seen the Moderna one, but probably in the very near future we will.
Professor Lotus, with this emergency approval and the full approval, do you see there are going to be millions of people lining up? Now it is fully approved. Let me get the shot.
I would think it should certainly, I think there'll be some people that were kind of waiting on this. They were hesitant before. Maybe they weren't confident in, they still felt it was experimental, or they thought maybe it had been rushed through, or FDA hadn't reviewed it thoroughly. And now that it has been approved, I expect there will be an increase in people that are willing to receive the vaccine.
Well, thank you so much, Professor, for your time.
Sure, thank you.
Back to you, Samantha.